Ladarius Brown here from the Sports and the World podcast. And on this edition, and every week, we're going to cover a particular topic in sport, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, etc., and give it more perspective. On the very first edition, we're going to talk about the QBR of the top 10 quarterbacks based in passing yards by attempts in 2019. And the explanation here is pretty straightforward. It's taking the QBR of the quarterbacks when they threw the ball 0 to 29 pass attempts and add that to their QBR when they had 30 or more pass attempts, and we divide that by 2. And these stats are based on the 2019 NFL season. So the higher the QBR average, the better the quarterback was throwing the ball more attempts wise. Now, lower the QBR, obviously on the opposite end, was the worst when the quarterback was throwing the ball more attempts wise. And as you'll see as we progress on, what the averages are and how the top 10 quarterback passing yards fared. And as you can see here, looking at the top 5 leaders in passing yards, Jameis Winston, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, and Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan. You see their passing yards and the respective stats. Now, when you see the bold in their numbers, it essentially means they exceeded the average based on the category. So as you can see here, Dak Prescott exceeded the average for the quarterbacks on this list with the QBR with 0 to 29 pass attempts, and as well for 30 or more pass attempts. And he's the only quarterback on this slide to accomplish that. But however, you can see Phillip Rivers exceeded the average 0 to 29 pass attempts, while Matt Ryan did the same when the QBR was 30 or more pass attempts. And also, and most notably here, both Jameis Winston and Jared Goff did not hit the averages for both of the stats. Looking on the remaining looking at the bottom 5 of the top 10 quarterbacks in passing yards, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Derek Carr, Carson Wentz, and Pat Mahomes. As you can see here, Russell Wilson exceeded the average in both categories, while Tom Brady only exceeded it in the 0 to 29 pass attempts. Derek Carr exceeded in both, and both Carson Wentz and Pat Mahomes did not reach the average in the QBR from 0 to 29 pass attempts, but exceeded and then some when throwing the ball 30 or more times on their QBR. Now, as you can see from the data created here on this bar graph, as you can see in the blue, the 0 to 29 pass attempts, QBR, in the 30 or more pass attempts, QBR in green. As you can see based on the charts that you saw before, that for the most part, Russell Wilson did very well, 0 to 29 pass attempts, but there was a decline. He wasn't the only quarterback on this list. You can see the same thing for Dak Prescott, Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady. But however, when you look at guys like Derek Carr, Carson Wentz, and Pat Mahomes, they either slightly exceeded it or they kind of blew it out of the water. In the case of Pat Mahomes, he kind of did 10 points better QBR wise throwing the ball more, as the chart shows. And in the article, and the link will be posted below, I'll explain such things as why Matt Ryan's QBR can be a little bit misleading, amongst other things. Now, looking at the average QBR as you saw in the previous charts, pretty much, once again, you look at Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, having the higher average QBRs, but most importantly, it's how they got there. While you look at Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson and Derek Carr, their QBR was exceedingly high and over 100. along with Phillip Rivers as well, when throwing under 30 pass attempts. While you look at guys like Matt Ryan and a Carson Wentz and a Patrick Mahomes, who threw the ball better when throwing it more at 30 or more pass attempts. And as you can see, the averages here, you can see Matt Ryan's is kind of low. And as I mentioned before, there's a very good explanation for that, along with one with all the QBRs here, with brief explanations in the article below. An important element of QBR to give some context to the previous data is quarterback completion percentage. And what we also did here is take the quarterback completion percentage, based it per attempt. Now, as what was done with the QBR, as you can see in the bold numbers show the exceeding of the averages, hitting it at the average or above the average for that particular category. And as you can see here, Dak Prescott exceeded the average for, based on this list of quarterback attempts, 0 to 29, along with Phillip Rivers, while Matt Ryan exceeded on this list, throwing it at over 72%. Looking at the back half of this list, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Derek Carr, Carson Wentz, and Patrick Mahomes, as you can see, Russell Wilson exceeded the average of 0 to 29, along with Derek Carr, who also hit above the 30 or more attempts average of the 10 quarterbacks, along with Carson Wentz and Patrick Mahomes. As you can see, the average here, 65.41% for 0 to 29 attempts, and 65% for 30 or more pass attempts. As you can see, it's a tenth of a percent less completion percentage. This shows that many of these quarterbacks were accurate, but slightly off, and some more than others, as the data has shown. And lastly, we take that information we saw from the quarterback completion percentage, and we made it into a bar graph, as you can see here. And what you can see, they look eerily similar to the QBR, especially in the case of Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, and Carson Wentz. But when you specifically zoom in on Tom Brady, you see some of the same things as well. But all in all, in the article below, there are 5 takeaways that I had based on this data, and curious as to what your takeaways are. To leave your takeaways and comments, drop them here at the bottom of this video. And also, to stay connected with us here on the Sports in the World podcast, head to our Facebook page at facebook.com/sportstheworld, and my personal Twitter account to leave your thoughts and comments there as well, at Ladarius_Brown. Also on Twitter for the podcast at sportstheworld. And for Instagram, for the Instagram podcast, it's at sportstheworld, and my personal one is at CubbiesFan77. And to subscribe to the podcast, you go to anchor.fm/sportstheworld, and the link will be in the description below. Thank you for your time, and the next time we meet again here, we're going to cover quarterbacks, include the ones you see on this list, but the rest of the quarterbacks, and to put them into tiers. TIERS for those, not tiers. But until next time, I'm Ladarius Brown. Be real, be you, and be blessed.